Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between. I am excited about today's episode. And the reason why I'm excited is because it comes from some things that I've been doing, but also I'm starting to notice it a lot as I grow. It's one of those elements today. Today's episode is called The Company You Keep. I am in recovery, and so I reference some things that I've learned through AA. And one of the things they say is if you stick around a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. You know, if you do things long enough or around people, long enough, you're going to start to act like them, become like them, or be influenced by them. And the other thing that this is also about is you hear me talk a lot about your tribe. Get yourself your tribe. Who are the people that you trust and that you care about and that care about you and care about you in an action way? They're not just passively watching you. They're loyal to your well-being. And so today is going to be both, because you can take this into the personal relationship area or the professional relationship area, because it stands true for both. But I really want us to take a look at today, and I am going through something right now where I've experienced this a lot. And you'll also hear me talk at times about one of the most precious things we can give is access to us. And access to us, in the way that I look at it, is access to my time, my energy, my history, my dreams, my goals, access to me physically, access to my thoughts and to what I want to share, and also my anxiety, which is kind of interesting. What I attach presence to, and do I give access to that sort of thing in my world? So today is about, we're going to kind of go this in 4 different areas, and I have 4 different kind of quotes. And the first one is, and it's not so much of a quote as a study. And it was done by Dr. David McClellan. It's this Harvard study, and it's often called the 90% rule. And the big finding of his study was up to 95% of an individual's success or failure is influenced by the people they habitually associate with. So, and again, I think that is one of the interesting parts about whether you're swimming upstream or downstream, and how hard it is to swim upstream, whether it be in a relationship or in work, where if you're not around and successful, I'm not just talking about financial success. I'm also talking about success in the sense of your well-being and your emotional success. And if you're not going to be around people like that, if those people aren't in your tribe, then who's in your tribe? And how do they influence your habits? How do they influence your well-being? I can tell you from my experience is that when I was not fulfilled and I was starting to realize I was not fulfilled and I didn't do anything about it, I started being around people that didn't either care or weren't engaged in the same sort of growth or the same sort of soul searching, we might want to call it, but they just weren't interested in exploring those things. So we didn't talk about it. It didn't come up, And so if you're not around those people, and again, that's personal, but take that into business. If you're not around people that want to push or that value the same things as you do as far as what business integrity is, then what are you going to talk about? That person can be a wide variety of diversity in your life, from age, from race, from all sorts of backgrounds. But if you don't have hey, this is where I want to take the company, if this is the type of integral standards you have, you're going to be a fish out of water. And so how do you become something in an environment that doesn't want you to become that? And you hear me talk a lot of times about your authorizing environment. And if I'm in a group, think about this. If you are one of five and you're trying to continually bring up a subject of something that is valuable to you, but it's not valuable to anybody else, how much airtime do you think that's going to get? And how much energy are you going to expend trying to get it airtime? And I was on a call yesterday, and I'm helping this person. She said, I was trying to learn the lesson. I thought I had to stay there until I learned the lesson. And I said, well, maybe the lesson is you don't belong there. And that's, and the only reason I said that is because that's what I recognized in me. I didn't belong in a lot of these groups, in a lot of these places, because I was speaking something that they didn't recognize, understand, or relate to. And therefore they didn't encourage or nurture it or see the value in it. Also with this study, you'll find it in the compound effect, where it emphasizes an individual's social circle, and not social as in hierarchy, but just your peripheral circle, and what that has to do with your ability. And I think about times that I've gone through things or big wins at work, and I've been able to succeed at work because I've had people read my decks, like partners take time out and go, hey, let me think about this. Let me do this. But I've also had people in personal life go, yeah, you're doing good. Like, we talk about this. They don't hold me accountable, but they bring it up till I have to hold myself accountable. But again, if that is not happening, if those people aren't there, it's easy for me to just kind of not pay attention and slide it on in. So who's around you? Who's in your tribe? And why the hell are they there? I also had to look at the other thing, and we'll go into the next part of this, is Jim Rohn's philosophy of the power of five. And one of his quotes is, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? I did this before I came here. And it was like, okay, who are the 5 people? And then I sat there and was like, do I want to be like these 5? I mean, seriously, ask yourself, do you want to be like these 5 people? Is that, the average of that? And I don't know about you, but I remember there were times when I didn't want to be. I mean, I know specific times in my life. And I also know that my attitude now, my outlook, because there's a difference for me. I'm very sarcastic, right, Joe?
Sure. Yeah.
You'd say that. And but there's a difference between, for me, being sarcastic and cynical, or sarcastic and negative. And it's funny because, again, the people that know me and have known me for a long time have seen me go through a very negative part in my life where I was very negative about things and critical. And again, you can be negative as in, that sucks, or you can be critical and, oh, they suck, or, ooh, there's nothing good coming out of this. And what it is I really think, for me, again, it's my social sphere. Who are those 5 people? How are they influencing me? Because I'm more likely to talk like them. I'm more likely to talk on subjects like them and see viewpoints like them. So if they are negative or critical, then where do I fit in that? And why do I want them in my tribe? What are they offering me? And what am I offering them? Because if I'm offering them, hey, I'm doing this and blah, 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 and they're just kind of like, oh, really? Oh, yeah? Oh, you're all over the place. Well, yeah, life's a little messy right now. Be all over the place with me. You know, and I think that's important for me to recognize. And I would like you to take a look. I mean, who are the 5 people? Not the 5 people you want to hang around with most, because we've all got those friends where you're like, oh man, I really wish I could spend more time with you. Who are you putting in that spot instead of that friend? You know, and I was talking to a counselor last week, and we were talking about not subbing in anybody if they're not worth it, if they're not adding to, and you're not being able to give to them, and they're not receiving and they're not giving back. And if you don't, I don't always need to sub somebody in. Sometimes my company is my best company is myself, especially if if I'm subbing in for someone who has a toxic thought pattern, or is in their life not wanting to go out and grow. And we find that in business. We find that in personal life. I find it in spirituality as well, where people want to go to a point and then they're like, yeah, we're done. And sometimes the other thing that's really great is there's this mug I have. Of course, I have a mug. And it says something like, isn't it great when, you know, people just leave your life? It's like the trash taking itself out. You know, and because I don't have the cojones to say, you know what, you don't need to be in my life anymore. But sometimes they just sort of move on down the line. And again, who am I substituting that space for? And should I be substituting? And if there are people, if they're 5, if your 5 aren't your 5, go find you a 5. That's the other thing that I didn't realize for a long time. And whether it be in business or personal, is that there's a lot more people out here than I thought. I can go get my 5. And the other part of that is, am I the type of person that somebody would want in their 5? You know? And if not, why not?
Great leadership doesn't start with a title. It starts with bold action. Christine Spratley works with high-performing teams that include anything from boards, councils, and project teams to cut through the noise, craft clear strategies, and most importantly, implement them. No fluff, no endless planning cycles, just real, fearless execution. With humor, practical insights, and a fearless approach, after working with Christine, leaders will step up, take action, and make shit happen. Book her now at christinespratley.com.
Keenan Gay, a coworker of mine from Deloitte, said something to me one time, and it was really, him and I used to talk a lot. We'd talk about business and stuff. We talk all about business, but we talk about family and things like that. But one of the things he said about business, and I thought it was just such a great thing, a great mantra, is he says, you want to be the person that you want to do business with. You want to be the business person that you want to do business with. So what it is I want to be the business person to others that I want to do business with. You know, I want to be integrity. I want to do da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, and you've heard me say this, water seeks its own level. So again, who are your 5? And we're going to hit on this one. And I love this. And most people have heard this, but it's, and you've either heard it through the actual quote from Theodore Roosevelt's speech, In Paris, the citizenship in a republic, which is, I think, so timely right now. If you haven't ever read that, but it's the man in the arena, and if you haven't heard that, you probably have heard Brene Brown's perspective on that, which is her quote, which is, if you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. And I really like her version because it's much more sarcastic and not as eloquent as, Roosevelt's. But when I read, so I've always known this speech from him, or not the speech, but the excerpt. And I'm going to read it for you. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And I love a lot about that. I love the end of it, because who do you have around you? Are they the ones who are marred with dust, who are working and doing, or are those cold, timid souls? And again, who am I? Now, the one thing I will say about this is, if you haven't read it, go to the speech. It was done in 1910. Let me make sure I get this right. 1910 in Paris. And it was actually on April 23rd, which was yesterday. We're taping this on the 24th. So, 1910, April 23rd. And it's called The Citizenship in a Republic. But I want you to look at the paragraph before it, because it talks about who those critics are. And again, this kind of stemmed from right now in my life. I'm going, who am I giving my attention to? Who am I allowing into my journey? And who do I want there? Because I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of energy. And I want it to be with people that I can give to and that give back to me. So this is what is really incredible for me. I'm going to read some part of this. There are many men who feel a kind of twisted pride in cynicism. There are many who confine themselves to cynicism in the ways of others, do what they themselves dare not even attempt. And I think this is really incredible, because I had to learn this, because I've had friends or so-called friends or people in my tribe where I have chosen to grow. And Oprah Winfrey talks about this in a commencement speech, where she talks about when you start to have success or when you start to grow, and not everybody's going to recognize you, and they're not going to cheer you on along the way. They're going to say things like, "Who she thinks she is?" And I read this, and I'll keep reading some more of this, but I've had people do that sometimes at the hardest time in my life, where I'm really challenging myself to grow, where I'm really making tough decisions. And I've had people, because they were not willing to do things in their life. And what had happened was, I used to fall in that cynicism where you just sit around and you have a pity party and you bitch about all the same things. Well, for me, what started to happen was, when I quit bitching and started changing things and started doing some of that, where I would go out and I would make changes instead of just bitch about it, I would come back to those same people and I would say, this is what I'm doing. And, I'm nervous about this, or I'm da-da-da-da. what do you think? And they would just be, oh, you can't do that. Oh. And it would just be this cynicism because they dare not attempt at all. And I've outgrown relationships because of that. And that's what makes, I think, relationships really hard. And that's why I value the ones that have lasted for so long. Because if you're going to grow and you're going to change at work, if you're going to grow and you're going to change, not everybody's up for you being promoted. Not everybody sees your growth as a good thing. Some people see it as a threat. The next part of this paragraph before in his speech is there is no more unhealthy being, no man less worthy of respect than he who either really holds or feigns to hold an attitude of sneering disbelief toward all that is great and lofty, whether in achievement or in that noble effort, even if it fails, comes to second achievement. And I'm just going to be really honest. I was for a long time and still can get into being a reverse snob because I wasn't raised with money. So that intimidated me. So people who had money intimidated me. I let them intimidate me. And so I became very cynical and, oh, we can't have this and, ooh, they must be this, and brought in all sorts of baggage and attitude. And I was an unhealthy being and I was not worthy of respect when I had that sneering disbelief towards others of what they were trying to achieve or what they were given, because I wasn't willing to do that. I was cynical on certain things in my life. And again, I remember someone very close to me, and I was like, we talk really negative a lot. Like not just fun negative, but like we get in there and it's like, again, just not good. And it's just in our conversation, like there's no light to it. There's no fun to it, or it's funny at the expense of someone. And it's like, wow, I don't want this. And I remember telling this person, let's just not be negative today. And it was really hard because I made the effort, but the other person was just like not doing it. So the other person is like literally no longer in my life. It goes on to say, a cynical habit of thought and speech, a readiness to criticize the work which the critic himself never tries to perform, an intellectual aloofness which will not accept contact with life's realities. All these are marks, not as the processor would feign to think of superiority, but of weaknesses. And again, this is the critic that you're talking about. We all know the critic. We all know that, but are we that? And those 5 people those people, that social circle that you put yourself in, are they critics or are they doers? Are they out there on the limb? Are they in the arena getting their ass kicked too? Or are they reading from some book, but not from life? It just really was hard for me to believe, in part, that some of the closest people to me were this way when I started to grow and change. And I haven't been perfect because I've told you I've done it myself, And for me, when the pain outweighs pleasure, I go, oh, I'm going to change. And then I start relating to you. And there's some people that I've come back around to, which is even interesting. Goes on to say, they mark the men unfit to bear their part painfully in the stern strife of living, who seek the affection of contempt for achievement of others, to hide from others and from themselves in their own weakness. The role is easy. There is none easier, save only the role of the man who sneers alike at both cynicism and performance. And this is someone who you can't please, because if you're performing well, you can't please them. And if you're not, they're going to be cynical about what you're doing wrong. So again, I bring this home because for me, I had a speech coach, and I haven't used her for a while. We still keep in touch. And when I started working with her, she was real intent about pointing out to me things. And she would say, that seems like a zinger. They're giving you a zinger. Like it was a compliment wrapped in an insult, or an insult wrapped in a compliment.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, they're just having a bad day or whatever. Or in your relationships, and it would be, she just point out, that seems like a zinger. It doesn't seem like they're, and if you've ever watched somebody kind of kick the block out from underneath somebody, and watch them fall, but it's ever so slightly. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, and they just start to chisel away. And next thing you know, it just go boom. And so much of me, and I think a lot of women that I coach, we tend to go, oh, it must be me. I'm not hearing this right. They can't mean what they're saying. They didn't just use that word, right?
Because it's usually nice, right? It's usually something like, you're so brave to wear that.
Yeah. or like, oh, they give you 50 compliments. I've been going through a lot. Everybody knows that. And someone was like, oh, I'm so concerned about you. But I haven't heard from her since I've gone through all this stuff. And then, oh, you're doing great in your podcast, but it's this and this and this. And it's like, what? I'm confused. I must be misreading something. Or I would get, I remember having on an outfit. And like you said, you're really brave for it. Isn't that too short? Isn't that too this? Isn't that too that? And which brings me to, Oprah Winfrey, she talks about this in one of her, not just in the commencement speech, but one of her interviews she gives, and she talks about she doesn't have room for jealous friends, period, end of sentence. And I don't have, my time is so precious to me now, my energy, that I don't want to spend it where I've got to decipher what the fuck you're saying and whether or not what you're saying is what you mean. And it's funny because I've had this happen a couple times recently where I've been like, ooh, I don't like that. And either you meant it maliciously or you're really ignorant in the words you chose. Either one, you're too old to be doing either one of those things. And so what I've done is I've allowed myself to, you've heard me say it before, and your daughter's going to like editing this one, let go of the turd, And now it's time to release them, not just put them on the bench, but release them, cut them from the squad. Get the tribe that is going to look at you and go, I don't like that outfit on you. And then they're going to go, ooh, and you could tell them, I don't care. But they're not going to give it halfway, they're going to tell you. And they're not going to be partial. And I know this is interesting for me, Joe. Do women do this? But I also think men do it because I've seen men do it. Men do it differently, though, a little bit. Kind of toughen up and take it. And it's interesting because it's the same thing. It's calling into question you, but not doing it in a way that is like, hey, I want to see you grow. I want to see you be this. I want to see you that. Let's go. And it's more of simple as tearing down. But I loved that paragraph before the critic because it defines the critic. And I will say this, in my experience, is that when I have had the courage to go and let those people go, oh, no, you need to go find some other friends. We used to say this and when I worked with companies that were resizing, we were optimizing the workforce. Well, I'm optimizing my social circle. I'm letting them find other opportunities for friendship. We used to say we're letting them find other opportunities for employment. But think about it. Who are your 5? Who's your 95%? If you want to make it big, who's your 95%? Are they swimming? I may have said this before, but I'll say it again. I was selling. I was learning how to sell better at Deloitte. And I had a call with a woman who was a senior manager at Deloitte. She had won an award. And she was really great. She told me 3 things. First of all, the first 2 were people only really care about 2 things. One, how much work, how's it going to make them look? How much work they have to do. But then the third thing she said to me about success in business, and she wasn't like selling small deals like mine. She was selling like $10 million deals at a pop. And she was like, you get in the boat that's already rowing. So if the boat is rowing and I'm, like I said before, if I'm swimming upstream and I'm the only one going in this direction, whether it be growth or whatever, then maybe I'm in the wrong boat with the wrong people. And sometimes I'm in the wrong boat because I'm swimming in the wrong direction for the wrong reasons, and they kick my ass out of the boat. And sometimes that's been good because I've not been willing to let go of people, places, and things. And so again, I've had them taken away from me. But I will tell you that when I have had the courage to go, my time is valuable, I am valuable, I am doing this for the growth of myself and for moving forward, whether it be in business, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to put it out there and I am going to, without fear, and show up. And I'm going to take my hits. I'm going to try to hold my hands up, keep my chin down and stay off the ropes, but I'm going to get hit sometimes. And I'm going to do that. And the people around me, my tribe around me, I like my 5. They're my starting 5. I'm good with them. And I've got some, and I like my 95%. Now, when I'm sometimes sitting down with people and I get those either mixed messages or straight up cynicism. They also say this in one of the stories in the book, in AA, the big book. It says you recoil, and they talk about alcohol, but you recoil, after a while, you recoil from it like a hot flame. And Joe, I don't know if you've ever done this where you've been around something or someone that just isn't good for you for whatever reason. And you're not around them. You've let them go or do whatever. Mel Robbins calls it let them or whatever, but you've moved on. And then you're around that, either someone like them or themselves. And you go, ooh, I don't want any more of that. Oh yeah, that's why I left that one alone. I don't need to put that turd back in my pocket. And I think that is the beauty, is when you start to go, oh, yeah, I don't want that. I have a mug that says, you are everything that I don't want anymore. And I like that mug because I use it for people, places, and things. Jobs, relationships. Do I want this anymore? And if not, why are you in my orbit? And no, we can't have everybody in our orbit. And sometimes I'm the asshole bumping around in other people's orbits. And I try really hard not to be. But who are your 5? Who's that 95%? And maybe life would be easier and you could gain more ground, whatever ground that is, if you weren't the only one rowing in that direction. So, ladies, gentlemen, think about it. I don't know, where are you at today? Are you in the car? Are you sitting at home, waiting for the kids to come home? Are you picking up McDonald's on the way to pick up the kids? You know, where are you and who are those 5? Who are those people who's in your tribe? And do they belong to be there? Do they deserve to be there? Not belong to be there, but do they deserve to be in your tribe? You are enough. Are they enough? And then look around and go, am I enough for them? Am I rowing in the same direction? Am I showing up for them, or am I holding some sort of contempt or jealousy for their growth? Or do I celebrate their wins? Do I celebrate them? And do I do it outside my head and outside my heart and into my action? I think that is so big. You know, love to me is a verb. And people that show up love me. People that don't, they can feel kind-hearted towards me and all this stuff, but if they don't take action that is helping me, or they're giving me backhanded comments, compliments, they can keep them, right? This is an interesting one for us. But it's like I said before, how much of the good stuff do you want? So who's your starting 5? Who's your 95%? And who is in the arena getting their ass kicked with you? And if not, why are you interested in their feedback? And why are you giving yourself, who's so precious and so wonderful, access to you? Raise the bar. Until next time, ladies, gentlemen, tubs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratly. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.